The Old Man News Alert. We are looking at smoke rising over Gaza despite the 2-day extension of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Both sides extending the truce through Wednesday, under the expectation that Hamas would release 10 hostages today and 10 more tomorrow. IDF spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner joins me now. Lieutenant Colonel, any information on what those plumes of smoke are? Good morning. Todd, no, I'm not aware of that. I'm seeing it as you're broadcasting it as well, and indeed, it is a developing situation, and we will be looking into it. I'm not aware of anything at this hour, but there could be something that's happening on the ground. You know that everything in and around this war is extremely fragile, and we are trying to bring home as many hostages as we can every day, and now in day 5. Hopefully we will see some more hostages come brought home today. Do you worry that this could potentially jeopardize the extended ceasefire? I don't know. I think we're taking. You know what we're trying to do is, and what we are doing is making sure that our positions, our defensive positions, our operational pause is maintained. At the same time, we are taking those steps, though, to be ready for any development. So the reality is one where we need to maintain our fire but protect ourselves, and that is what we constantly are doing. I can't confirm this situation. I don't know exactly what it is. We will have to look into it. This development notwithstanding, because again, we just saw this within the hour based upon how negotiations have gone with Hamas. So far, are you confident that the ceasefire will extend even further beyond this latest extension through Wednesday, Todd? It's very hard to look beyond this evening. Even so, I don't want to. Harness the horses before the cart. We have to keep in mind that the reality on the ground is a dynamic one. We have to understand that the ruthless, merciless enemy that we are facing, Hamas, in this conflict, is one that is all for mass manipulation and heart-wrenching of his Israeli society. You've seen it over the last few days. We see Israelis gathering around the televisions from 4M every day here, glued to the television sets, trying to understand who's going to be let out, who's coming home, what their condition will be in. So I guess that will be the situation once more today, and then we will look towards tomorrow and plan for tomorrow. Our operations include making the necessary plans to transfer the hostages as they're released from the Israeli side to an initial medical assessment, a mental assessment, and then transferred to Israeli hospitals where they continue their treatment. Our role is to protect them, to bring them back into the communities and facilitate them and cushion them after the huge trauma that they've been through. So that is what we're currently doing. The operational pause, Todd, it's important. We believe that we wouldn't be receiving these hostages without the immense military force that was utilized in order to bring Hamas to the negotiating table. And we are conducting our activities currently with two operations in mind. Continuing the flow of humanitarian goods to the people in southern Gaza, the people that are not our enemy, and in the host home, with regard to which hostages are selected for release and which are selected to stay. That has to be an absolutely agonizing decision. How do you pick well? Obviously, that's not something that we do, that it's happening in the corridors of diplomacy. Our role is to facilitate the release once they are released. I don't envy anybody who is in that position that has to try and figure out who comes out. Of course, we demand that they all come home. We need to bring every last one of them home. We've demanded that the International Committee of the Red Cross have access to the hostages in order to assess their well-being. Unfortunately, I can't report that has actually happened. Understood what is Hamas's endgame? Because at this current rate of hostage releases, albeit it's slow, but eventually this current group of hostages will all be released. What happens then? And the IDF resumes fighting, resumes attacking with the full strength and force of the IDF. Do you have any sense? I don't know. I don't know what Hamas's endgame is, Todd, I would say. We know what the ultimate end of this war needs to be. It needs to be a demilitarized Gaza Strip. It needs to be a location that is governed ideally by Palestinians, as they choose to see fit. It needs to be without a terrorist organization that governs the Gaza Strip as a staging ground for terrorism against Israel. We need to ensure that happens, and that is what we intend on doing. The government has instructed us to be prepared. We have taken advantage of the last 4 days to reassess our operations to learn from the lessons of of the 7 weeks of combat that have taken place and be prepared to mobilize at a minute's notice. Just quickly, are you fearful? Hamas will take new hostages as it tries to pause the fighting further. It's a great question. I mean, that has been their modus operandi, obviously, from day one. They did it before the 7th of October, and they would probably try and do that again. We are operating very, very cautiously in the field from our operational activities and forces on the ground. Of course, we need to understand that this is something that they may try and do, and that is why we've been operating very, I would say, slow and surely in order to achieve our goals of dismantling and destroying Hamas's governing capabilities and terrorist capabilities. I would also assess that with modest success, though, but we are winning. We are defeating them. They are pursued. That is why they came to the negotiating table to release hostages, and that is what we intend to continue. We need to bring home every last one of them, and we need to make sure that they never use the Gaza Strip as a staging ground.